Hello and welcome back to this channel. If you're new, this channel focuses on the ins and outs of living abroad in the beautiful country of Poland. This week, we're going to talk about working with children abroad. Now, I know some of you do not work with children, and just the thought of being around children or working with them probably has almost scared you away. However, if you saw the title of this video and you clicked, stay with me. I have some interesting things to share with you. Now, I live in Poland in the southern region, and I work specifically with children from ages about 3 to probably about 11 is the age range that I specialize with. And I've found throughout the years that there are some significant benefits with working with children here in Poland. The number one benefit is that when you work with children, you have the opportunity to experiment. A lot of times when you teach adults or you work with adults to some capacity, you don't have that time to be creative and you don't have that time to bring your talents and your experiences and your hobbies to the lesson. When you work with children, you have the opportunity to really fully engage your lessons or inject your lessons with everything about you and everything that you love doing. So for instance, I'm not a good singer, I am not a good dancer, but in my lessons, I incorporate singing and dancing to help the children learn English. And you know what? When you work with children, they don't care how bad of a singer you are. They don't care how bad of a dancer you are. They just want to have fun and they want to be in a lesson that's engaging and entertaining. The number two reason our benefit fits hand in hand with number one, in that working with children is fun as hell. It is like super fun. So for instance, I have this example from a really good friend, and he talks about how when he works with children, it's like they're at a concert and you're the main act. And so, the kids are sitting on the carpet or they're sitting in their chairs, especially with children that are in preschool, and their eyes are completely dilated and their eyes are on you. And you are like the Mariah Carey, you are like you are like the Beyonce, you are like, the main act and you are the main attraction and all eyes are on you and everybody is fully engaged and everyone is trying to get your attention. So if you like the feeling of being the center of the universe, working with children, specifically small children, is going to be right down your alley. This next aspect is probably what scares most people away from children, and that children don't have a filter. They have zero filter and they give zero cares or worries about you and your feelings. And so sometimes we're in a lesson, a child might be having a bad day, and they're gonna let you know. But that is the beauty. Specifically, if you're thinking about going into psychology or you're thinking about going into the social sciences, specifically with sociology, you gotta work with children. And the cool thing about working in a country where you're teaching language or you're teaching English as a second language is that when you work with these children, you really get to see more of a raw form of their culture and a raw form of humanity in general. There has been several times where I stepped into a classroom and I felt like I was on the field of some scientific study and I was discovering all these new and cool things about humanity and all these new and cool things about Polish culture. The fourth aspect is that you learn very fast that you are not in control of anyone else. When you work with children, you learn that you're not in control of them. When you work with adults are civil, adults don't have to have had time to be socialized, or when you work with even preteens or older teens, they come into the lesson, they know what to do, they sit down in their seats no matter how they feel, and they just work through the lesson. With children, it doesn't work that way. And if a child is having a bad day, you're 9 times out of 10, you're gonna know about it. And so you learn that in the classroom, it's not about you being the authority, but it's about working with the group. And the dynamic changes according to what children are there and what mood they're in. And so sometimes when I go into a lesson, I'll have something elaborate planned. I would have stayed up all night making this lesson plan, gathering all the materials to have a great lesson. And I get into the lesson and the children are not feeling it. And it's not because they're bad children, it's just they're children. And if they're not feeling it and I push it, then we have a really bad lesson where I'm like trying to shove information down their throat that they don't necessarily want to learn that particular day. So I've learned when I'm working with children, if the vibes aren't good and if they're not feeling what I'm doing, I just change it up and do something completely different. And this is where the part comes in where I think this is the biggest benefit for anyone. And I'm saying anyone. So that includes you, the person who doesn't like working with children. Here you have to learn to be flexible. You have to be willing to go into a lesson and be able to change it up completely. In addition, this is where you learn a lot of things about yourself. So it's a big learning curve when it comes to self-discovery. You kind of learn your tics and you kind of learn the things that kind of get under your skin when you're working with children, because they are going to push all of your buttons, and sometimes they push several of your buttons all at once. So don't be afraid. When you work with children, you have the opportunity to learn so much about yourself and so much about humanity in general. And last, but certainly not least, when you work with children, you have the opportunity to unleash your inner child. And you have an opportunity to not be so serious. You have an opportunity to just let loose, and you have an opportunity to have fun. Children are not going to judge you. It's not like the adult world where you have to fear being judged. Children are just solely going to judge you, or are solely interested in having fun and having a fun lesson. So this allows you to be a child, to get down on the floor and be silly and pretend that you are an elephant or a tiger. Or I do a lot of songs in my class, as I mentioned. So sometimes I'll pretend to be a baby or I'll pretend to be a student. Children, specifically young children, get a hoot and a holler out of your silliness and your ability or your willingness to make fun of yourself. Again, I know that several of you are not going to go into the field of teaching English to children, specifically small children, and that is completely okay. But I urge you, if you are thinking about moving abroad, and if you're not even going to go into the field of teaching English as a second language at all, I urge you to go ahead and volunteer with children in your area or in the country that you end up moving to. Volunteer. And when you volunteer, you don't have to teach the children, an English lesson, or if English is not your language, you don't have to teach them about language. Just go there and play with them, or go there and teach them a skill set that is your hobby, or just go there and get on the floor and play. That's the beauty of working with children. I almost think to myself that when I teach children, I'm giving them the gift of English, or I'm giving them the gift of interacting with a native speaker. But you know what? In return, they're giving me the gift of seeing humanity in its most innocent and most raw state. And they also are giving me the gift of love. Once children warm up to you, and sometimes it takes a minute, you are showered with love, you're showered with gifts, you're showered with hellos, high fives, and hugs. So definitely, if you have the opportunity, when you're abroad, definitely work with children. Anyhow, if you like this kind of content, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, and I can't wait to see you next week.